united against Trump. Leaders from some of the world's largest powers right now joining forces to take on the White House. And the images are striking. Russia's Vladimir Putin shaking hands and laughing with Chinese President Xi Jinping and India's Prime Minister Modi.
Beijing's Tiananmen Square became the stage for a breathtaking show of power. Tens of thousands of soldiers marched in synchronized steps. Long-range missiles capable of reaching the United States rolled across the plaza, stealth drones buzzed overhead, and futuristic tanks gleamed under the sun. This was not just another anniversary parade. It was the 81st commemoration of the end of World War II, reimagined as a statement about the future of global power. Watching closely from Washington, President Donald Trump admitted he was impressed. "They were hoping I was watching, and I was watching." Very, very impressive, he said, yet his reaction quickly soured. Hours later on Truth Social, Trump accused Beijing of failing to credit the United States for its decisive role in defeating fascism, and he sarcastically sent warm regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, who had attended the parade. For China, the message was unmistakable. It had arrived as a peer power, capable of rewriting not just military balances, but also history itself. For Trump, the spectacle exposed the fragility of his high-risk trade war strategy, one that sought to restore American dominance through tariffs, nationalism, and nostalgia, but risked fueling the very rival he aimed to contain. This is the story of how a parade revealed the dangers of Trump's economic gamble, the symbolic contest between America's past and China's future, and what it all means for the global order in the 21st century. Chapter 1. Beijing's carefully choreographed power play. The Tiananmen Parade was planned with meticulous precision, as all Chinese state events are. Soldiers trained for months to perfect their step timing down to the millisecond. Cameras captured sweeping views of missile convoys, fighter jets, and armored divisions. It was a showcase of discipline, technology, and ambition. But the symbolism went deeper. China framed the event as recognition of its sacrifices during World War II, highlighting its fight against Japanese occupation. For decades, Western narratives had placed the U.S. at the center of the Allied victory. Now, Beijing sought to insert itself into that narrative as a co-architect of freedom. Foreign leaders sitting alongside Xi Jinping reinforced this new positioning. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un attended, as did representatives from more than 24 nations. Their presence underscored the formation of a parallel diplomatic community, one that looked less to Washington and more to Beijing for leadership. Beyond diplomacy, the display of advanced hypersonic missiles and cyber-capable drones was a reminder that China is no longer a manufacturing workshop alone. It is now a leader in next-generation warfare. To China's citizens, the parade was a reassurance of strength. To the world, it was a declaration of intent, that the 21st century may be shaped less by Washington's values and more by Beijing's ambitions. Chapter 2. Trump's conflicted response. Back in Washington, Trump's reaction revealed his contradictions. On the surface, he praised the spectacle. Meeting Polish President Karol Nawrocki, he admitted, "They were hoping I was watching, and I was watching." Very, very impressive. He admired the discipline, the technology, and the grandeur. Yet only hours earlier in a podcast interview, Trump had shrugged it off, claiming he wasn't concerned. This inconsistency mirrored his entire approach to China, admiration for its efficiency and strength, coupled with deep resentment that it dared to challenge American supremacy. By evening, frustration overtook admiration. Trump posted on Truth Social, venting that China had failed to credit the U.S. for winning World War II. His sarcastic message to Putin and Kim, "Warm regards as you conspire against the United States," was more than snark. It betrayed his fear that Beijing was building alliances designed to sideline America. Trump's conflicted response reflected the heart of his China policy. He respected strength but demanded deference. He wanted to punish Beijing with tariffs but simultaneously court its leader with flattery. He admired the order of Chinese parades, yet resented the lack of acknowledgement for America's sacrifices. This contradiction, admiration mixed with grievance, would define his trade war and shape how America responded to China's rise. Chapter 3. Trump's own parade obsession. Ironically, Trump himself has long been fascinated by military parades. His first taste came in 2017 when he attended France's Bastille Day celebrations. He marveled at the spectacle of tanks, jets, and disciplined troops on the Champs-Élysées. "We should do something like this in Washington," he told aides afterward. By 2020, Trump staged his own military celebration for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. It featured Sherman tanks from World War II, stealth bombers flying overhead, and Revolutionary War reenactors marching past Constitution Avenue. Supporters loved it. Critics mocked it as a vanity project. But there was a telling difference. China's parade looked toward the future: hypersonics, drones, next-gen missiles. Trump's parade looked backward, celebrating America's military heritage. It embodied his "Make America Great Again" ethos, a yearning for a time when America's industrial and military might were unrivaled. The contrast could not have been sharper. Beijing projected ambition. Washington projected nostalgia. China's message was, "We are the future." Trump's was, "Remember when we ruled the past." In global competition, that distinction matters. Nations that claim the future often inspire more confidence than those who cling to memory. Chapter 4. The Trade War Context. The parade unfolded against the backdrop of Trump's trade wars. Beginning in 2018, his administration imposed tariffs on more than $360 billion worth of Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices, currency manipulation, and intellectual property theft. Trump presented tariffs as a patriotic duty. "We're bringing jobs back. We're making America strong again," he declared at rallies. His economic nationalism resonated with voters in the Rust Belt, who felt abandoned by decades of globalization. But the tariffs were double-edged. American farmers lost access to Chinese markets, forcing Washington to spend billions in bailout subsidies. U.S. consumers faced higher prices on everyday goods. Supply chains became unstable, hitting industries from electronics to automobiles. China, meanwhile, retaliated with tariffs of its own and shifted to new trading partners. More importantly, it accelerated its long-term strategy, reducing reliance on U.S. technology and markets. The Beijing parade symbolized this resilience. While Trump hoped tariffs would bring China to its knees, Beijing stood tall, projecting strength to both domestic and global audiences. Chapter 5. China's Leap Towards Self-Sufficiency. Trump's tariffs had an unintended effect. They pushed China to double down on self-sufficiency. The weapons on display in Tiananmen Square reflected this shift. Hypersonic glide vehicles, stealth-capable drones, and electronic warfare systems were developed with heavy state investment aimed at bypassing U.S. dependence. Beijing launched its Made in China 2025 initiative, pouring billions into artificial intelligence, 5G telecommunications, quantum computing, and renewable energy. Each sector represented an area where the U.S. had once held dominance. Trump restricted Chinese companies' access to American technology, most notably blacklisting Huawei. But instead of crippling Beijing, the bans spurred it to innovate faster. Universities, state labs, and private firms united under government direction to fill the gaps. The result was a surge in indigenous innovation. By the time of the parade, China showcased capabilities that rivaled, and in some areas surpassed, U.S. systems. Trump's strategy to contain China may have accelerated its technological rise. Chapter 6. The Battle Over History. Beyond weapons, the parade was also about narrative. Chinese officials highlighted the Communist Party's role in defeating Japan during World War II, downplaying contributions from the US and Britain. This rewriting of history had profound implications. if the American century was rooted in victory during World War II, then reframing that victory weakens America's claim to leadership. Richard Wilkie, former U.S. Veterans Affairs Secretary, warned, "It's the first step in rewriting the rules of the road." And you do that first by rewriting history. Trump bristled at this. His politics revolve around pride in America's past. To see China minimize U.S. sacrifice struck at his core message of American exceptionalism. But Beijing's narrative wasn't just domestic propaganda. It was international positioning. By claiming a bigger role in World War II, China sought legitimacy as a great power shaping the post-war order. History became a weapon, and Trump knew it. Chapter 7. America First, Allies Last. Trump's policies often alienated U.S. allies. Tariffs hit not just China, but also Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. Long-standing partnerships were strained as Washington accused friends of taking advantage of America. Meanwhile, China cultivated ties with Russia, North Korea, and other states. Their leaders' presence at the parade symbolized a growing coalition willing to stand with Beijing. America's traditional strength has been alliances. NATO, trade pacts, and diplomatic coalitions allowed Washington to amplify its power. By undermining those relationships, Trump weakened America's collective leverage. The parade made this contrast stark. Beijing displayed solidarity. Washington displayed isolation. Trump's America First slogan energized his domestic base but left America more alone internationally. Chapter 8. The Theater of Power. Parades are symbolic, but symbols shape perception. China's sleek, disciplined spectacle projected momentum, unity, and ambition. Trump's nostalgic parades projected memory, heritage, and longing. For domestic audiences, both had value. But globally, one looked like the future while the other looked like the past. The theater highlighted the risk of Trump's trade policy. By focusing on reviving a bygone industrial age, he underestimated how quickly China was leaping ahead technologically. The Beijing parade was a reminder that global power flows to those who own the future, not the past. Chapter 9. Risks and Unintended Consequences. Trump's trade wars were bold but risky. Supporters praised them as overdue confrontations with decades of Chinese cheating. Critics saw them as reckless experiments. The unintended consequences became clear. Rather than forcing Beijing into concessions, tariffs accelerated China's self-sufficiency. Instead of isolating Beijing, they pushed it closer to Russia and other adversaries. Meanwhile, American consumers bore rising costs and farmers required government bailouts. U.S. companies scrambled to adjust supply chains, often at great expense. The parade symbolized this irony. Trump's policies intended to humble China, but instead Beijing stood taller, projecting resilience and confidence. Chapter 10. The Future of the Global Order. The Beijing parade was more than a celebration. It was a declaration of China's readiness to lead. For Trump, it was a reminder that his high-risk trade policy carried dangers, not just economic but geopolitical. The U.S. still has unmatched advantages, technological innovation, vibrant democracy, and global alliances. But those strengths erode if policy is driven by nostalgia and grievance. China's rewriting of history, its technological leap, and its coalition-building signal, a world in transition. The spectacle in Tiananmen Square was dazzling theater, but it was also a warning. The future belongs to those who prepare for it, not those who cling to the past. The Tiananmen Square spectacle stunned the world. China projected strength, ambition, and historical legitimacy. Trump responded with admiration mixed with resentment, the contradictions of his presidency captured in a single moment. So here's the question. Has Trump's trade war truly strengthened America's hand, or has it fast-tracked China's rise as a superpower? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth documentaries exploring the defining power struggles of our time.